Join Harrisburg School District Superintendent, Mr. Eric Turman, as he presents options for reconfiguration in the Harrisburg School District.
Hello, Harrisburg. This is Mr. Turman, the Superintendent of the Harrisburg School District, and I want to give you some information in terms of a possible reconfiguration for next school year. This was presented at the board meeting on Tuesday, but we want to continue to get this information out to parents so they know exactly what we are considering for next school year. So how did we get here? So let me give you kind of a historical look at Harrisburg. So, over the past 15, 20 years, the district has sold or shuttered almost 5 buildings. Woodward, William Penn, Schimmel, Riverside Steel, which is coming back online for next school year. So, but there is one thing in terms of you look at the history, there was a time where the district did have neighborhood schools. And when talking to folks in the community, that was something that was very positive. What you also do have is over a long period of time, the facilities in this district have not been maintained properly. So there is going to have to be an effort to get our buildings to a point where they are attractive and conducive facilities for young people. The academic performance in Harrisburg has been challenging over the past several decades as well. And the district was structured K-8 at some point, then that kind of shifted to K-4, 5-8, but now we have a configuration that we feel very. So what's the purpose? Why are you doing this? One, we have a new building coming online at Steele Elementary School. So we could sit and say, hey, Steele's coming online. You know what? That's enough. But is it good enough for all students? Two, we all know that there are 2 buildings within this district where, for the most part, any feedback and talking to parents, the community, teachers, and anyone are problematic, and that's Scott and Rowland. Those 2 buildings were meant for offices, not meant for school. Next thing, how do we provide more of an evenly distribution of students across the district and across the city? How do we also allow to really look at our finances, to really hone in on the buildings we really want to focus on, and not buildings which we know at this point in time, putting money into them may not have a return on investment. There is going to be a presentation within the next couple of months where we are going to talk through the amount of money needed for capital projects, which at this point in time is in excess of over $100 million. We also know we need central office. Right now is the Lincoln building. We're going to have to get central office out of that building in order to expand the capacity for the Lincoln building. We really want to create neighborhood schools where kids have an opportunity to walk to school, and especially at the elementary level, not getting on the bus and going and staying on the bus for long periods of time. Also, it'll be a lot easier for parents that if they need to get to the location, that they can get to that school very quickly. And then how do we really look at it making our pathways for students to get to and from school safe? There are some buildings we have online right now which are very dangerous for our kids as they come to school and as they go home. Now, as these kids feed into high school, and now looking at our mid-level as well, how do we have career pathways at our mid-level to prepare them for high school and the plan we're going to have moving forward when we start to look at our career pathways at the high school level? And how do we really make sure we have strong educational programs so our students are invested, engaged in their learning, and they know what they're preparing themselves for in the future? And the last thing we all know is that we need to get our students in school earlier. So how do we expand and have enough room that we have 4 pre-K classrooms now? We had 1, now we're at 4. We also have 6 Head Start classrooms. So that will service maybe 100 students or so. How do we expand that and get more of our children into school earlier? We also know we do have aging facilities. Once again, there will be a feasibility report which is going to highlight more than $100 million in repairs and maintenance needed for our current 12 buildings, but upgrades to Scott and Rowland specifically are almost a quarter of that at $23 million. But from being able to have our ESSER dollars going to a very good cause, our ESSER funds are going to bring Steel back online. So what are some of the best guidelines to consider as we were looking at our attendance across the board? So we wanted to make sure we had guidelines. So as we were creating boundaries, we wanted to create boundaries that made sense for our students and for the community as well. So we made sure, A, that there was the diverse environment for all students, okay? B, we wanted to be very mindful of the number of students who needed to attend a new school next year. 3, we wanted to make sure we were mindful of the bus ride and the length of that to and from school. 4, we wanted to make sure to the best of our abilities we had equitable class size across the board. 5, really looking at and making efforts at looking at the school attendance boundaries. And the last one is we were able to use man-made features and natural boundaries to define the attendance zones. So as we were creating this, we really took a lot of things into consideration as we were creating the boundaries for what we are proposing for next school year. So what's our current enrollment right now? Right now, our current enrollment is 715 at Ben Franklin. Downey has a little bit over 400 kids. Foose, about 500, a little bit over 500 students. Melrose, very overcrowded, over 600 kids. And Scott Elementary School, a shade under 500. But if you look at Camp Curtin and Roland, Camp Curtin is a little bit under 500 students, and Roland Academy is a little bit under 6. But Marshall Math Science Academy, which is one of our application schools, is running at close to about 450 students. So that's the current enrollment for our kids in Harrisburg. So our grade level configuration, as we discussed earlier, K to 5, that includes Ben Franklin, Scott, Melrose, Downey, Foose. Middle school, we have Roland, Camp Curtin, both are 6 to 8. Marshall Math Science Academy right now is actually 5 to 8. You have Cougar Academy, which is K to 12. Harrisburg High School, John Harris, SciTech. That's the grade level configuration we have for the district. So you can start to see our current zones here. So when you look at the first zone, that's in that, I'll say blue, that's Ben Franklin. To right of that in orange is Downey. Underneath that is your Scott area. To the right of that is Melrose, and all the way at the bottom is Foose. That's currently the layout of the Harrisburg School District. Middle school, and the green is Camp Curtin, and then the brown is Roland Academy. The only reason Marshall Math is not added in here as an application school, it brings students from both attendance areas. So if we did nothing else other than open Steele and move forward next year, which we have to do, Steele would open up in August of next school year, and will open up. Marshall Math Science Academy will become grades 6 to 8. And the 4th grade students who are in the Marshall attendance zone will remain at their current elementary school. All right, so those students would not shift to Marshall Math Science Academy for the following school year. So if we did nothing else, that's exactly what would happen next. This is exactly what would occur next year. So what you see here is now you can kind of see the boundary and how Steele, bringing on Steele helps is Steele now takes a good portion of the students who have to walk so far to get to Ben Franklin. So Steele is in the gray up top, then Ben Franklin is in the blue, Downey is in the orange, Scott is in the red, next to that is Melrose in the purple, and then Foose down below. So just by adding Steele, you can see very quickly how we start to bring down the number of students who have such a distance to go to get to school. Because our students who live in the Steele area and have to go to Ben Franklin, if those students aren't bused, it is a long walk for those kids to get from that area all the way to Ben Franklin. And at option 1, middle school remains the same. Camp Curtin is in the green, Roland is in that brownish color on the bottom. So if you do that, you can see in terms of total enrollment, Ben Franklin's numbers decrease, Downey's numbers decrease, Foose actually has a small uptick in students. You will see Melrose drastically decreases. Scott decreases some, but then Steele opens up almost 300, a little bit under 400 students who would attend that school next school year. So just by opening up Steele, you can see very quickly how you decrease the number of kids who are in our elementary schools. So advantages, challenges. We will definitely ease the overcrowding at the elementary level. This will be the least amount of students moving to a different school. Those are the advantages. What are the challenges? 1, we're not going to address all neighborhood schools across the district. 2, that safe passage home we talked about earlier, it will not be addressed for those students who attend Scott and Roland. And 3, students are still going to be in buildings that are not intended for school. Option 2. The first 3 things stay the same. Steele opens up, Marshall Math becomes 6 to 8. The 4th grade students in the Marshall attendance zone will remain at their elementary school. This is what we would add on with this option. The Lincoln building will become a K-5 elementary school, which it was in the past. Scott will be closed at an elementary school and be repurposed to temporarily house our SESI program, which is currently at the Hamilton building. Cougar Academy will then move to Hamilton, okay? And as I said earlier, the SESI program that's at Hamilton will temporarily be in the Scott building for next school year. That's option 2. So when you look at option 2 now you start to see things flatten out. You have Steele Elementary School, which is coming online up top. Then it will go into Ben Franklin. To the right of that, you have Downey. Now you have Lincoln Elementary School, which will be right in the heart of the city. Melrose will stay where it's at. And then you have Foose. So you now don't have 2 elementary schools which are a block from each other. So now when you start to look at the attendance zones, now you start to see how you have schools that are truer neighborhood schools than we currently have. For the second option, middle school stays the same. Camp Curtin, Roland, application for Marshall Math. So what does that do to enrollment? A, you will see Ben Franklin does decrease some, not as much as option 1, but there is a decrease at Ben Franklin. There is a decrease at Downey. There is an uptick of students at Foose. Melrose decreases dramatically. Steele, still under about 400 kids. And now you have Lincoln right in the heart of the city that's going to draw approximately 400 students. Okay? So you start to see a little bit better equal distribution of students across the city of Harrisburg. Advantages to option 2. Ease overcrowding. You fully utilize Hamilton Elementary School, which I can tell you from being in that building is an absolute gem. Beautiful elementary school. Okay? Half of it's not even being used. So now we'll have a chance to fully utilize a school that's built for kids. You will have better neighborhood schools at the elementary level. You will have a safer passage home for our elementary students. You're going to lessen the transportation needs at the elementary level. So what are the challenges? Moving forward with this and being ready to go for next school year, the facility needs that we still have at Roland Academy. And now there's an uptick in movement. So now we're talking about almost 40% of the students will be attending a new elementary school next year. Option 3. Majority of this stays the same until you get to the bottom. Steele opens up. Marshall Math goes 6 to 8. 4th grade stays in their attendance zones that are in the Marshall attendance zone. Lincoln becomes an elementary school. Scott will be repurposed. Your SESI program will move to Scott. We will then use Hamilton for Cougar Academy. But now the addition is Roland Academy will start to begin a 3-year phase out. And those students will start to shift to Camp Curtin. And we also have more spots at Marshall Math Science Academy. That's the biggest difference for option 3. So, elementary level, as in option 2, Steele, Ben Franklin, Downey, Lincoln, Melrose, Foose, kind of flatten things out. But at the middle school, you now have that as all green, where all students who don't go to Marshall Math Science Academy will phase into Camp Curtin. Now, benefits of Camp Curtin, built just like a middle school, okay? Once again, beautiful building, great grounds, lots of space, opportunity down the road if need to. You could definitely expand that building if we needed more space. That would be very easy to do. All your fields, baseball, and everything is right there. And now we have an opportunity to really focus on the needs of one middle school and how we really offer an education and engage students at that school moving forward. So, enrollment, Elementary, for this one, stays the same. But now you see at the bottom, Camp Curtin obviously now has a huge uptick in the number of students there. But what I will say is when you look underneath at the students who are at Marshall Math Science Academy, there is space for anywhere from a number of 100 to 150 more students. Advantages: overcrowding, utilize Hamilton, neighborhood schools, safe patches for elementary and middle school students, lessen transportation needs at the elementary level. We will have an opportunity around to really strengthen our middle school programming. Challenges: timeline for next year. Movement now for a larger portion of kids, because we're now talking about your incoming sixth grade students who typically would go to Roland now would be going to Camp Curtin. And there's going to be an increase in busing at the middle school level. So, rationale for the third option, which is what the district is proposing. One, makes better and more efficient use of the space and balances enrollments out. Two, it really does allow us to prioritize our facility improvements and needs. Three, we'll be able to renovate space and provide a more modern education for our students. Four, provide space in the elementary schools now where we can start to talk about what the expansion of pre-K can look like. And five, it's going to provide for more cost-effective and energy-efficient buildings. So what are our next steps? We will then start to, if option 3 is what is approved, the redistricting will occur next year. All parents will receive information in terms of where their child's school will be for the 24-25 school year. All students will be placed at the elementary school based off the new boundaries as well. So those are kind of some of the next steps. Also, we're going to be creating a timeline of what will happen from when it's approved until the start of the year. So everyone's aware of what we have going on and what needs to be done. What are other things we need to consider? Combining 2 middle schools into one, okay? What that's going to look like, how we bring those 2 communities together. We definitely want to get some feedback from community on the plan and the process. You will start to see within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to have meetings at every elementary school and every middle school to invite the community in to talk about the plan and to get some feedback. Definite constant communication with parents, things that they need to know and when they need to know it. And we're going to need to get some feedback on the plan so parents, staff, and the community know exactly when and how they will be impacted. Other next steps: feedback from our court appointed receiver, doing a cost-benefit analysis of going with the 3 different options. We're going to have to establish a section on our website for updates, ways to submit questions and get feedback. We're going to be scheduling a meeting with our staff for updates. So as well as meeting with the community in the month of December, I will be meeting with all elementary and middle school staff to talk about the plan and then give them an update and get feedback from them. Schedule the community meetings next month and then others outside of that when we land on something and what's going to happen next, and really being able to communicate with families who will be attending Steele, or if we go with option 3, Lincoln Academy, those parents need to understand, families of those parents need to understand where they would go, in any other school where there would be any type of movement. So I hope you as a community understand the district and really the why. I've been here for 2.5 years. I've heard a lot of the history, and what we are trying to do as a district is let's get it right and let's move our city and district forward. So this is really about getting it right. I have not had anyone who's come to me and they're really okay with having students in 2 buildings that are not meant for school. So how do we get it right? Okay, so we could definitely just bring Steele on and be done with it and keep moving on. Or we can say, you know what? Steele's not good enough. We are going to push forward and get this right. So we are really proposing option 3. I will be scheduling meetings with parents and staff to get some feedback during the month of December, because I really want to be able to sit down with that, synthesize that information, make sure we are on the right path. But at the end of the day, the decision to move forward with option 3 is to get this right for our students. Our students deserve better, and this is what this plan does for them. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the month of December to be able to listen to you, be able to talk through the options, and be able to really hear from you and get your feedback.
Thank you for joining us. For additional information, visit us on Facebook or www.hbgsd.us. We are One Harrisburg for all students.